Welcome back. In this segment, we're going to talk about structural problems and structural repair. And I guess you're the expert on that, aren't you?
Well, do you want the 5-minute answer or you want the 30-minute answer? You know, structural repair guys have that reputation of being one, if you ask them what time it is, they'll tell you how to build a watch. So if I get out of hand, please let me know.
No problem. So what are some of the things that you're finding, Will, in your service area that people are having problems with foundation walls?
Well, you know, it's ironic. We see so many different forms, but most commonly in our area, we see bowing foundation walls in a basement where the walls are curving inward. Of course, everybody knows about cracking.
Curving inward, so the wall would be something like this here.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And more importantly, just cracking. Everyone obviously has been driving down the street or walking down the street and seeing cracks in the foundation walls. That's most commonly caused by settling. And to set a definition, that's where the soil underneath your home has either dried through drought periods or in fact softened through wet periods and the foundation sinks.
Oh.
You know, a lot of people assume the contractor did a lousy job on building my foundation when it's really not the foundation at all. In most cases, it's the soil around and underneath the home. Especially in our area, we see homes that have rocky soils. Some homes have very dense red clay type soils, and they all witness and experience the same problems.
So, so it's the soil pretty much outside that's either pushing that wall in, or if it's eroding, it could go the other way?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And, well, in fact, we do find, just like last week, find homeowners that have witnessed various different weather conditions that have caused their problems to get worse over time. For example, soil expanding, and then heavy rains eroding that soil away, and then that dries, and then we go through another wet period and then expands again. So some homes can really get quite a beating just from Mother Nature outside the home. But it's really neat, some of the simple solutions that can fix it permanently.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what can happen to a home's foundation. I mean, there are people whose chimneys have pulled away from the side of the house because the chimney was built on a foundation that has settled due to soil issues. There are even issues with foundations where driveways in cul-de-sacs that are affected by the street going down the hill, for instance, and the concrete streets have expanded and pushed a driveway against the house and stressed that wall and forced it to do something that it wasn't designed to do. So structural problems with houses are in my mind, are very interesting, and we have been fixing those with the help from Foundation Support Works in Omaha, Nebraska, and we have fixes for all kinds of things on these on the problems we see on these foundation walls.
I gotta imagine, you know, any homeowner that's got a structural problem where you physically see your wall coming in the basement, you know, it's got to be a big concern. And obviously, come time to sell the house, you know, this is something that's got to be dealt with.
Well, and a lot of our customers sometimes get this feeling that, okay, the cracks formed, it's stopped moving, when in fact that's really not the case. When you start to see cracking forming in a home, especially over time, say for example even 10 years after it was built, that's not a sign that it's getting better, unfortunately. And yes, we do find a lot of customers where we have to come in on the eve of the closing, and those buyers, of course, have to spend the money to have it fixed for another family to enjoy it,
right.
which is unfortunate. We don't like that situation, but if a lot of our customers could experience some of the common sense approaches to actually fixing these and even replacing them back to straight in some cases, it really is remarkable. I think in every foundation repair job, our homeowners are right there next to us, just in awe about how easy it is to fix these.
Let me mention also, you said when a homeowner sees this, for instance, but in some cases, if the homeowner has a finished basement,
they don't see it.
They may not see it until they see it, and they may see a crack here. But the other times that they're going to see it is upstairs in the house, because if the foundation wall has changed, and it's going to change how things happen upstairs with sheetrock, drywall, whatever you want to call it, doors not closing properly, and so on. So those are other signs.
You bring a good point up, Pete. What are some of those things that a homeowner should be looking for? What are the red flags that me as a homeowner, if I see these things, I should really pay attention because I could have a foundation problem?
Will sees these every day.
Yeah, real commonly. Everyone has seen in someone else's houses or even their own cracks above the corners of doorways, windows. In fact, doors sticking. And also as well as, well, pitching or sagging in their floor. That's especially with our crawl space customers.
Crown molding pulling away from a ceiling.
Okay.
That's correct, yeah. We have seen in many cases where the trim along the ceiling has in fact separated. You know, your children with falling grades, and no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, these are very simple telltale signs that all of our customers see. Cracks in drywall, more importantly, outside the home, cracks in your mortar joints, even separation in a lot of the siding corners to foundation joint that are really easy to spot when you're just pulling into your driveway.
There's another very serious sign of wall problems is in a basement, for instance, with a block wall, and where a homeowner, it's not a finished block wall, but they can see that. And there's something called shear, and shear is where that block wall has actually moved off of that first course of block. The whole wall is slid over and off of it.
So it's shifted.
The whole wall, you know, we talked about how a wall can bow somewhere in the vertical height of the wall, like you said earlier, but that can happen too, but either with or without that, if there's a lot of outside pressure on this wall, and that could be, again, based on this driveway thing I mentioned, where you have these exterior forces pushing on this wall, and that bond between that second course of block actually separates from the first course, which is, the first course is held back by your concrete floor being poured there. Then that second course all of a sudden breaks loose and shifts over, you know, an inch or more. You know, now you've got a serious problem going on, and again, we have solutions to take care of that.
So now, are these issues corrected from the inside or the outside?
Either.
Yeah, actually, in
So
very
you have both approaches.
A lot of our customers really like some of our inside approaches. For example, we'll go through each individual one. For example, we have for bowing walls a type of wall anchoring system called a geolock anchor system.
Okay.
And very discreetly, just with a small hole, can drill through the wall and out inside of the yard find that rod that we have drilled through the wall, and then place what we call a earth anchor, or what most people commonly associate as being called a dead man anchor. Then on the inside of that foundation, a engineered plate is fastened to this rod, and over time can actually pull that wall back to straight. A lot of our homeowners actually get to become structural repair experts with us because we fasten these to a very specific amount of pounds per square inch, and then in fact every time the soil shrinks, say for example in the fall months, the soil shrinks, they can go down and tighten that little by little, and over time be able to repair their bowing walls even on their own.
We'll leave a torque wrench behind for the customer to actually go down and give it and torque it back to the proper PSI.
Yeah, and that's of course bowing wall systems, but for settlement it's really unique, and please keep in mind, visit foundationsupportworks.com, because this one may be difficult to get your head around. But a great way to lift and permanently stabilize sinking or settling foundations is with what we call an FSI push pier. And this is a driven steel pier that goes all the way down into bedrock, the soil that we know is never going to move. And then from there we can actually fasten underneath the cement footing of the basement or crawl space and lift that back up, almost like hoisting the home back up from bedrock. Mm-hmm. And that really is a common fix that unfortunately not a lot of people know us for, because they don't see our work, because that can be done from inside a basement rather than digging up the outside.
A lot of people are living with these problems because they don't know there's an actual fix. Sometimes they think, well, you know, I can't afford it, And some of these solutions, from my understanding, you know, are very affordable, depending on, I guess, how bad the situation is. But as you had told me before, sometimes, you know, waiting longer actually makes the problem gets worse, and it actually costs more over time, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And you know, we talked about return on investment for crawl spaces because they can pay for itself over time. Structural repair is the same exact way. And in fact, I think a lot of folks get turned off at the fact of fixing their foundation problem because their initial idea is to jack the home out and tear out the complete basement foundation, crawl space foundation, and replace it, which is so industrious, so expensive, when in fact that's not necessary at all.
And it doesn't address the soil problem, which caused the whole thing in the first place.
To begin with.
The soil is the weak link in all this system. So the push pier system that Will described, actually, you know, you bypass the soil and you go to bedrock, and now you've got this foundation anchored onto something that's solid. Otherwise, before, the footing was just poured on top of soil, and the man or the person who built the house and the homeowner were depending on the soil density to hold that house stable. But as he's described, soil density can change depending on moisture and water and drying out. As that density changes, then that soil is going to start to move.
So it kind of sounds like, you know, your business, anything below grade, whether it's a basement, crawl space, you know, basement walls. I mean, you guys really got it all, don't you?
That's why we say all things basementy.
Yeah.
Is that a real word?
Yes, it is.
A basement.
It is now.
It is now
It's
in the
just
basement system.
It'll be in Webster soon.
Okay.
When people ask us, what do you do? And after going through all the services, we notice that they're nodding off and falling asleep. That's why we summarized it to all things basementy, to really cover basement finishing, basement waterproofing, structural foundation repair, crawl space repair, all of these services. Well, in fact, we could have just summarized my last 15 seconds in saying all things basementy.
There you go. There you go.